I did almost cause a massive fire, very close to, and like I don't think I'd have been severely burnt or worse.
What?
Yeah. So it
I haven't
was
heard that story.
yeah. So like one. So you know I said I was in charge of the pits.
Yeah.
So the basic. So that was kind of like part of it was we had like I think 5 or 6 silos where the different barley would go in, and as our friends on Tanked Up will tell us, different barley kind of varieties will taste different and give something different to the beer. And that's the difference with like a big, if you go to like Coors or somewhere that's like a big industrial size, like, you know, making your carling or whatever, they just chuck all the barley in the same pot. No one cares. They just make it so it doesn't taste like barley anymore. Whereas craft beer is like you can taste the ingredients, you can taste the place it comes from. So we had a bunch of, you know, so I had to organise like all that stuff and kind of keep an eye on all the conveyor belts. And part of what the process was in what's called intake, which is that, you know, it comes in, is you kind of shake it all to get the dust off.
Okay.
Right. So then we had and what we did, the dust was all get shaken off, and like get collected in these big sacks that would eventually need emptying. And it was there's like 5 sacks of dust, and part of my job as well was to empty those big sacks, which then used to get all kind of I think like compressed and turned into like chicken feed or something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know, but so one day I had to tie a piece of rope, and it was like the kind of plastic rope, and what we used to do is we would melt the end of the rope so that it didn't fray. And okay. I was sat in the area where all the dust was, like, and when I say dust, it's like, you know, like a bakery flour kind of level of dust, trying to light a match and failing.
Oh God!
Until I realised, if I lit that match, this would have been a massive, you know, like a pretty significant explosion here.
Holy shit!
Yeah. Yeah.
So that match saved your life, basically. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much.
Like the
pretty
inability
much.
For that match. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, the other thing that was pretty dangerous. Like so, and then there was another situation where the kind of warehouse, like I don't know what you call it. I guess the building, which is basically a big empty warehouse with a bunch of conveyor belts in it. We shared that with like another company that did like peas, like they did they kind of dried peas, like, you know, like you get split peas and stuff.
Yeah.
They did all that kind of stuff, and we'd share that with them, and there was a door inside, so that there was like a door without a window in it. There was like a fire door that I would often have to go into this door, and it's hard to explain without me kind of showing you, but like you'd open the door and the door would swing into the warehouse, right?
Okay.
Now, I once opened that door and immediately the door just slammed straight back in my face, like properly slammed in my face. And what it was that someone was driving a skip around in a forklift truck and couldn't see out the front.
Oh God!
And was just driving that skip through the warehouse at pretty, you know, like faster than I would have. And it's one of those situations that, like, a bit earlier, you know, if I'd have walked out that door a little bit earlier.
Pow! You're pancaked.
Yeah.
Wowzers.
Yeah. No pill bug.
Wow. Sean, you've diced with death more than I thought, like, you had. Like, you've lived, man.
No.
Like, you know, more than some.
They made fun
maybe.
of the fact the fitters would always wind me up because there were like so many things in the place that were like they had to fix something because I was pointing out health and safety issues. And they wound me up, but actually they kind of agreed with me. Like you know, they were just like, yeah, actually you're right. Like I remember, so the dust thing again. So this dust system, like, there's so many. There was like, because it could be a pressurized system. There were lots of places where it was designed to sort of fail, rather than blow up, right? So there was like one bit on the top floor. Now, so this warehouse was probably 3 or 4 stories, and because you know, these big shakers. So you know, like massive, the kind of thing you see on like Oliver Twist, you know, like huge industrial machines.
Yeah.
And then various floors. Now, what it used to be like when my dad first worked there was this, and he was telling me this, like they used to have this, I don't know, like, you know, a couple of feet wide little shelf that people would have to walk along to clean the side of it. So what that meant was that but they, because of health and safety, they added like actual floors. So you didn't have to like lean forward to do stuff and over this open gap that's 2 stories high. But what that meant was that there's no seal between the floor and the machine. And one day I was just kind of doing what I do, like just working, and one of my colleagues was sat down working on something on the ground floor, and I noticed this big metal thing right next to him. And I said, "What's that?" And he was like, "Oh." And he said, "I'll show you." And we walked all the way up to the top floor, and there was like a pipe with a metal lid on it. That's one of the fail points. That lid pops off, and that lid popped off and fell down the 3 floors and just landed right by him.
Oh God!
So like I was like, and they came and welded a chain on it, like, and that's what they needed to do. But yeah.
I wonder how many lives you've inadvertently saved by suggesting that chain needs to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember the other worse accident was, or not worse, but the other bad one I always remember is, so I had to empty those dust bags.
Oh, yeah.
And one of them was like, you have to empty into this, like, again, it was another pit really, like that would just churn it up. And there was one, every so often, they're like these big kind of Hessian sacks with a tiny hole in. And so like, it was packed full, like a couple of tons or something, like a big, you know, no joke, kind of big bag. And sometimes you'd open the little hole and nothing would happen. And you're like, oh, nothing's coming out. And so what you would do is just kind of like poke it and poke it and poke it and poke it. And we were doing that. And I was there with someone. I was like, I think it got to the point where I was like, I can't get this to open. And I went and asked for some help. We were both just kind of poking it with this stick, and the whole bag emptied in one, like the whole thing just ripped open, and all this dust went down. And it was like, and they gave us, I had I guess it was a respirator, because it was like, you know, a big helmet. You'd put a helmet on, and then you were breathing through, like, I don't think there was a fan necessarily. There might have been some electronics in it maybe, but you had a thing that on your belt that's where the air was coming in. And the dust just completely blocked that, and I couldn't breathe. And the person I was working with, being someone who's worked there a long time, had nothing. No PPE at all.
Yikes.
Yeah. And that was yeah. But I was like, you know, I didn't have any goggles on or anything, so it was like, that was unpleasant for sure.
I can see why people contract out this work, Sean, because this field is colossal.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
I don't know about you, but it is taking me a